We'll see how new 3.0 works. Greetings, everybody, and welcome to Discussing Tabletop. Hey, everybody, if you may notice, I've fixed up things and made it look a little nicer here and a little bit more fancy and stuff like that. We'll see how well it works for today and going forward. There's more work on my end, but, I wanted to make the live show, at very least, look a little bit nicer for everybody.
So. You have a little spot, and you have discussion. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's
I do a little thing
better.
next to me for, Twitch chat, so the people that are live can get something in here if they really want to. It also shows the docket right now, but whatever.
That's fine.
Yeah. And then I got a little thing that down below you...
If anything, it's good that it shows what's coming up.
And down below you, I can do something very nice, and watch this. Boom. I have an image related to the topic we're going to be talking about.
Hold on, I'm waiting. Ah, there we are.
Yeah. And watch this. Oh, wait, we hear it? The topic we're going to be talking about. I can have that pop in, too.
Cool.
I'll have to edit those on the fly, is the only thing. So it might be we'll start a topic and I'll start editing it into those things. But, maybe in the future I can make it a little smoother.
I need to look into, little scripts for OBS. I might be able to do a script where it's like you have a docket and it just goes through it by hitting next.
Yeah, a setup button for it. Because otherwise I can set up, all the images, but there's today was a very topic-heavy thing, and even with cutting some images together for topics, still 15 images I would have to load up and switch between.
You'd have to do images separately, but at least you could do the topic or something,
Oh, yeah. That's an easy edit, though, so I can just kind of go in there and, edit that for subject. But anyway, yeah, so hopefully you enjoy a little bit of the new format and stuff like this. This is my 3.0 revolution so far. Steps in the right direction for improving the show. Anyway, big docket today. We should get into it. Definitely. So, as I've gotten shown here, our first one, of course, is Magic the Gathering is doing a D&D secret lair. I'm going to also throw the link into the Twitch chat, so if those of you watching, you can see it now, or it'll be linked down below for anybody else. So, it's a super drop, which is going live on Tuesday, and it'll probably be sold out by noon on Tuesday. If not sooner. Not gonna lie. But maybe if you really want one of these, you can get in there for its limited amount.
I kind of agree, it's dumb.
Yes. Again, I don't mind limited print, but usually when you have a limited print, you get enough that, at very least, most of the public that wants a thing gets it.
Yeah.
Guess what? Most of the public that wants a thing is not getting it. That's a problem. That's bad limited run. Anyway. Especially for the... So, the first two are Beholder-based secret layers. One that seems to have... The thing is, a bunch of the art does seem inspired by older Beholder art, especially for Death in the Eyes of the Beholder 2. I recognize a bunch of those because I had a bunch of stuff and adventures and things like that for Beholders in 2nd edition AD&D.
I've definitely seen some of these before. I think the first one I've seen.
Yeah, so the first one I've seen some of, too. But,
the first one I haven't seen any of, but also, that's not saying a lot. It's not like I've specifically gone through Beholder art.
Again, it's one of those things that, they're
if they were dragons, I would be able to tell you if I was if I recognized it.
If print to order would be much better, you're right. Again, I was always a big fan of Beholders. I really was neutral about... I'm gonna say, I was more on negative, but overall neutral about the direction they took them in 5th edition, because they just basically entirely changed their lore. The lore is of a different monster. It's the same mechanic monster, but the way they set up the lore, completely different. The idea of dreams and stuff is a neat idea, but it wasn't Beholder lore before 5th edition. Something they made up for.
Yeah, here's the thing, I would say that, but you could just say that's Faerun or some subset, or I mean, it's a thing. It doesn't bother me, honestly.
Well, again, it's one of those things that doesn't necessarily bother me. That's why I kind of put it as a neutral
I also
thing
felt
for
it was
me.
pretty. Also, I felt like it was more just like one small part that they shifted, rather than like you're like, oh, they completely changed. It's a new monster. It's like,
no,
well,
as I said, mechanically it isn't.
I know, but I think even lore wise, it's like they changed their origins in a way. But a lot of other like behavioral lore and societal lore, I feel, is very similar.
No, the societal lore is not different completely too. The behavior is the same. That I will tell you. Behavior is the same. That I will agree on.
I'm arguing something that I don't I've not looked into Beholder lore very much. I've heard bits and pieces before 5th edition and after 5th edition. But honestly, that's where my brain goes, I don't know that I can't tell the difference.
It's the kind of thing
maybe
that
I should argue something that I don't know enough about.
It's fine because you understand some of the basics of it, and that's an important thing. It's sort of like on the surface, again, if you ignore large points of if you just play Beholder as Beholder when you have an individual Beholder in a game, it's not going to really be different. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's just when you get to the more complex, higher level adventures that in the old past, in AD&D and 3rd edition, dealt with multiple Beholders and Beholder societies that did actually exist in those games, or something like... This is the thing that when they brought back Spelljammer was an issue, because Beholders are one of the main enemies in Spelljammer. And they have, fleets of ships where they have groups of them in the ships and stuff like that. It was them... Nyogi, and a couple others that were very, the darker races in Spelljammer. But you can't have that with the way that they do them now, is what I'm saying. So it's sort of you can't do Spelljammer proper anyway, which they don't really do, when you change their lore like that. Which, again, their Spelljammer lore was kind of different than their normal lore, but it was an extension of that.
Is it the part where they hate each other changed? Because I know that is in 5th edition where they, hate each other.
The thing about Beholders in older edition is they technically do hate each other still, but it's not enough to prevent them from working together when they know it's a good plan to do. In 5th edition,
so
they would never...
They hate each other, but they hate other things besides themselves more.
Exactly. And they don't have that really in 5th edition, so it's meant to be a single monster in 5th edition. So...
Anyway, because basically the two Beholder lores I remember reading about was 5th edition and 4th edition. But honestly, like I said, I didn't get into it enough, and I'm like, they seem the same to me.
Again, 4th edition might have already kind of gone down this path. I didn't remember any major changes, but it could have been some minor ones I didn't notice. Anyway, I gotta be honest, I don't know a lot about the spells that are being listed here and stuff like that to tell you if they're worth it. You have a couple of days to look up if you're really interested in this. If you're looking at the value side, if you're looking at the art side, it's neat. For at least those. So the Beholder ones, again, this is the kind of thing I'm a big fan of, but, also, I don't necessarily need these on Magic cards, and I'm looking here, and none of the Magic cards really screams I would need to buy these, just by looking at these at the top, yeah. Some of these might be good. I think, Bribery is a decent card, but I don't know if it's, a very expensive card at the top. The others in here we have, and of course, because they've got a Milk, Baldur's Gate free, an Astarion, and a Karlach Secret Layers.
Which is, literally every time there's something with a character, it's Astarion or Karlach. I know people love them, but oh my gosh, why? I like Gale too. I like, let's see, Will's fun.
I think it's the thing that, the two of them end up pretty big, but, there's other characters there that, I think of also. I can't, because I'm bad with names. Is it Lisette? And, again, this is someone who hasn't, as of yet, played through. Shadowheart. Yeah, Shadowheart.
Yeah.
Shadowheart, these are characters that, are memorable, and are there, and we don't see them as much because I guess it's sort of like they're the weird poster childs of Baldur's Gate in their eyes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do know that Exquisite Blood and Sanguine Bond are very interesting because that's a you murder your opponent combo. And they have them in the Asterian's Thirst. I'm not going to lie. Exquisite Blood is whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. Sanguine Bond is whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. As soon as your opponent, if you have both those out, as soon as your opponent loses 1 life, they die.
There's got to be some kind of restriction on that.
I don't think so, but maybe. Because the opponent would lose a life. You would gain that life, and then your opponent would lose another life. I think it would be separate. It would be like a thing that could be interrupted because it would be the amount at a time each time. It's sort of like, so if you have your opponent lose 2 life, you gain 2 life, and then it would keep repeating. So it could be interrupted, but it is like an ever repeating cycle. If you have both. I mean, it's not a instant death. You still have to like set it up and actually then have an opponent lose it.
They're spells, right? Or
they're enchantments, so they can be targeted by enchantment structure things.
Well, I'm just like thinking, like, are they a one-time use thing?
Technically, no. Because as enchantments, they're out in play as soon as you play them, and until someone gets rid of them, they're there.
So enchantments are permanent until you get rid of them.
Yep.
Unlike spells, which are cast and then... Okay, so I was thinking they might have been some kind of spell. Okay. But if they're an enchantment, then you place them out and they just stay there. Yeah, that means it's basically instant death. If
you still have to trigger it, which means your opponent loses life, but loss of life is loss of life, but damage becomes loss of life, technically, by the way the wording of the rules are. So it means that you just have to send 1 creature to poke your opponent, and then they just bleed out all the way. I liked the combo. I think I've never actually used it, even though I had it in a deck.
Honestly, it does sound like it'd be kind of hard to pull off, because they are a little bit expensive, given the 5 and given both being 5.
Yep. They're expensive, you have to get both of them out, and, you know, granted, people usually, when you have at least one of these out, it begins to make you, like, you know, be kind of a target. I'm not gonna lie.
Yep. Yeah, if you see both of those, it's like, nope, I'm playing this thing as soon as I can to get rid of those.
I'm gonna murder you. The only one I know from the Karlach one, because actually the other thing I have to say here is that Astarion and Karlach have their own cards, which are unique cards.
Yeah.
But I think that's fine. You know, we've had it. They're just like D&D cards. You know, we had the D&D sets. They fit right in with that. Perfectly fine with them being, you know, there on their own. And that's the kind of thing here is, hey, they own the IP. They can reprint these.
Yep. It's not like some of the other unique ones that they've done in the past, where it's like, well, you're gonna have to make a deal to reprint them, probably.
Yeah. Or do the universes within versions of them, which we've seen some of, but not a lot of. The only one in that one I know is Dolmen Gate, which I've used a lot of in some decks. It's a pretty good one. It may be cheaper than it was now, but I don't remember. Then we got an Exhibition of Adventure, which is just basically a bunch of art from different D&D places. And there's 7 cards, which is a pretty big secret layer. But I don't know if any of them are valuable. Like, I recognize the monster manual here. That's 3.0 monster manual.
Well, they also have the DMG, the current DMG 3.5. They have honestly, this might just be cover. Yeah, these are just covers from all the books.
Even Fell the Mighty, you think?
Yeah, no, I've seen that. That's like the original. That's like one of the original expansion covers or something. I've seen.
Yeah. You see that beholder there, and I'm like, it's just that is the most silly beholder.
The only one I haven't seen is the one titled Monster Manual, but I believe that's probably one too.
I've seen that one.
All the others.
Oh, hey, is that a Momo? I'm gonna have to switch this around. That's fine. Keep speaking while I
Hi,
redo
hello, it's me. I returned from work for 9 hours.
Yeah.
Which is my typical shift.
No, because I've seen every other one as a cover of some kind.
You had a Momo right there and there.
Oh, it's me.
I'll redo characters, but I can do that while we check. So we just started talking about the secret layers, the new ones here that are D&D related. Again,
open up Twitch, so I can get that sweet link.
Yeah. So far, it was 2 beholder sets, which were fine. And this is a secret layer super drop that's coming out on Tuesday. Then they have an Astarion and a Karlach ones with unique Astarion and Karlach cards.
I have seen the Astarion one. I've seen both of these posted online. I do not hate the cards. However, they've made a lot of my friends real weird on Twitter.
Huh.
Especially the Astarion ones.
Okay.
I mean, just look at them. It's Astarion. People
He's
love
Astarion.
this man for some reason.
It's Astarion being Astarion. Yeah.
The cards are good though.
Yep. Okay, so that is the Greyhawk supplement cover, 1975.
Oh, that the Fell the Mighty one?
Yep.
Wow.
They did rearrange it ever so slightly, but because it's more long, so they kind of moved the beholder to be a little bit more up into the. But yeah. But yeah, I'm like, I've seen that before.
Yeah, so that again, like, this is a really cool idea.
This is actually really fun.
Yeah. I think there's like stuff like this is neat. I don't know about these cards at all, so I can't really tell you if they're expensive or not. But it's a cool idea.
There's so many cards, I'd have to go through them all.
Yeah,
I do like the Baldur's Gate ones, I will say.
Yeah, they're really good looking, and yeah, my thought is just, man, I feel like every time there's something, every time there's D&D does something with Baldur's Gate characters, it's always Astarion and Karlach, and I'm like,
yeah,
and again,
well, I don't think anyone remembers who Will is, so you're never gonna see him on anything. I'm surprised there's not a Shadowheart one. Shadowheart's like, I think, the most popular. I think Shadowheart's the most popular character.
I'm pretty certain Astarion is.
Astarion,
followed by Shadowheart, then Karlach.
And then Karlach, and then I know Gale's pretty popular.
Yeah, I like him too.
There's not a character in Baldur's Gate 3 I don't like. I think they're all very well written.
At least in these two, I can point out some cards and say I know they have value and how much they have. Like Dolmen Gate, I know from the Karlach one has value, and then the Exquisite Blood Sanguine Bond both do, because they, again, I was mentioning it when Rafuri came in, they both combo into you deal 1 damage to your opponent and they die.
They're very good.
Oh, yeah, okay. It actually says what they all are at the bottom. Supplement 1, Greyhawk, Player's Handbook, 1978. The Red Box, Basic Rules, 1983. Second edition Dungeon Master's Guide, 1989. Third edition Monster Manual, 2000. Fourth edition Dungeon Master's Guide, 2008. And fifth edition Dungeon Master's Guide, 2014.
That is 40.
Yeah, that's why I've seen it. Yep. Sorry, I thought it was 3.5. No, it's 40.
I recognize that now. It's 40. And I recognize the D&D, Dungeon Master's Guide, because I think that's one of those ones that in the early 90s when my brother got a bunch of D&D books he got, and I ended up with it. So I've got it somewhere. I don't think I ever really used that one. I was too young. But
fair.
That's cool. Yeah, that's pretty neat stuff they have there. I think these are fine. I'd be happier if it was, print to order and not, a limited
That's asking
amount.
too much.
So, good luck for anybody that really wants these on the 27th. I definitely would see, combination if you like the art. Are the cards you can use, and does it have that? Ask those 3 questions.
Going to bet that the Baldur's Gate 1 sold immediately. I'm gonna bet there is no chance you're getting a Baldur's Gate 1.
I'm inclined to agree.
I think those are gone immediately.
Well, especially since Astarion's Thirst literally has, as Tantus just said, a kill combo.
Yep.
A common, yeah.
I know one of these has been
It's a combo I use in my black decks quite often.
Yeah. And the other one I think hasn't been reprinted a lot. I don't know if it might be the Exquisite Blood, or I think, because I think Sanguine Bot is more reprints.
I think Exquisite Blood just got a reprint in 2023. Like a Commander deck had it, I think.
But there's still not a lot of reprints.
Yeah, but it's not a lot, but it has been reprinted more recently. But I think Sanguine has more numerous reprints.
Yeah.
Is worth less. Yeah, Sanguine Bond is worth $2. Exquisite Blood is worth a lot more.
So
both very good cards.
Alright. Go ahead and check these out. That's that part there. Okay. Now, let's change our subject here. We're going to change our subject to our next topic, and that will be, of course, Magic State of Play a little bit. Magic State of Play. There we go. So, I'll link this entire thing here, because I did want to, chat about this here a little bit. I don't know if we want to go to super in-depth about everything, but it does look like, at very least, the people in the design team do recognize some of the issues they've had.
Yes.
Which is good.
I hope it leads to better sets. Because the designs for a lot of the sets recently have been pretty bad, especially Thunder Junction. I think Thunder Junction was the most disappointing set in a long while.
Wasn't, Bloomborough also kind of bad?
Bloomborough is, I think, getting well received, but I don't know how...
Bloomborough is good because of the cards and design.
Things around it are bad.
Yeah, the monetization is very bad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was.
It's like the first one. Right. It has the value boosters, and then
the value boosters
just have less cards in them, or something.
And then the play boosters, which the
play boosters.
That's when they changed their booster style, which is what everyone hates about that one. Okay.
They're supposed to be still draftable, but they're also supposed to be the collector's boosters at the same time.
There's a very good Tolarian Community College video on why you probably really shouldn't buy them and just save up for the big $100+ box instead. It technically has a lot more value still.
Their version of Fat Packs are very bad too.
Yeah, Fat Packs have gotten really bad.
Yeah, so it's and then the value boosters, bad Fat Packs. I think the Commander decks are fine.
Oh, the Commander decks I've heard good things about.
Yeah, the play boosters not great. It's just
trash.
And then of course the really expensive collector's boosters still exist, and they've never been valuable. They've never been worth it.
Also, the one thing I do know is the collector promo card, whatever, for this set is actually a playable card that's good. Where the last few have been such trash, it's not worth it.
If you're ever thinking about getting those expensive collector booster, super collector boosters, just watch any of the videos where Tolarian College opens up a box of those and it compares the prices. Sometimes he gets lucky and barely gets there, but that's usually only if you get a high value card, which you're not very likely to get.
If you want to get into Magic and you're cautious about your monies, shout out to Tolarian Community College, because the professor does really, really good work and good breakdowns. He's awesome.
He's very good for when it comes to finances, especially. Which is very important for an expensive hobby.
It's
understanding
expensive
finances.
Yeah.
So yeah, they know that their tropes were kind of bad. I think the two big ones were Thunder Junction and the Murder at Karlov Manor were too tropey.
The Ixalan one, they bring up a good point. The Jurassic World tie-in was stupid and should have never happened.
Yeah. Lord of the Rings, things were some of the cards were too good because hey, One Ring and Orcish Bowmaster.
Lord of the Rings is a broken set.
Yeah. So they learned a lot of lessons. It's a good thing to see here. The thing again, this is an important thing. They at least recognize this, whether or not.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of this stuff does come down to the design team. there are this is stuff related to the design team. This is not related stuff to like the product team and those people over there and like the management.
The
This
design
is the
team are the
design
people who
team.
legitimately care about the game.
Again,
I mean,
it's
with the exception of Hasbro firing like half of the employees, probably hurting people.
We'll get to that today.
Yeah, we can deal with that in a minute.
That's a later on thing.
That's
a thing. That's a thing on the list. Again, like Bloomborough, well received for design and a lot of cool ideas and stuff like that. And I think that's why like we want to see more well-designed sets like that. You know, it's sort of like Kamigawa Neon Dynasty was great. I think.
Absolutely.
Let's see here.
New Capenna was like beloved when it came out because it was so unique.
New Capenna was a very interesting, and they could do like a gangster kind of thing and do it well. So it's not like they can't do these tropes, and they can do them well. But I think it's sort of like they took it too far.
Sometimes you just shoot and you miss.
I think they also say in the Thunder Junction someone that they didn't really like make a world.
The plane was very thin. They do bring that up, and they also the tone was too much of a joke.
Yeah.
So I mean, I hope they revisit Thunder Junction. It was interesting, but put a little more effort into it.
I'm someone who really thinks I think it'd be really cool if Magic did a lot more collaboration with D&D in the sense that like they really made like D&D kind of a world or a D&D like world like.
Remember when they made two Magic D&D books and then just never did it again?
Yep.
And they should do it again because those two books are actually pretty good.
Yes, those were really cool. Or like when they even did like the miniature things where it was like, here's a player's guide how to use these planes.
Again, please.
Again, Magic worlds are really awesome things that they develop through these cards and give us a very cool view. People like both seeing these really well-developed worlds. Again, it's why there's some popular worlds. Yeah. But also, when you give them us, like, play them in a D&D setting, we really love that, too. Because, hey, it kind of goes both ways. You know, like, the favorite set was a pretty cool idea. I did not mind the favorite set. That was an awesome idea. I think that was, like, a good use of it. Maybe some other worlds, like Greyhawk now. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe we'll get Greyhawk now, because it's
it's like the default setting now for 5e, or 5.5 or 6e, or whatever the hell they're calling it.
Anyway, so there is one more Magic-related thing to kind of talk about for a second, and that's the Spotlight series. I'm going to link it here. I'm linking in not a Wizards thing because they really didn't talk about it on their site. Because, of course, they didn't. Hey, it's basically a new Grand Prix. It's not being called a Grand Prix because it's technically different than it, but it's basically a spiritual successor to that. Hey, this thing that we did for a lot of years that we got rid of for random reasons, we're bringing it back. You know, because people loved it.
Oh, it turns out people were upset when we got rid of this.
I know, you know? Turns out people liked having our tournaments and stuff.
Weird. Why did people get mad about that?
It might have been expensive to run, but having partners and like advertisers and all this other great stuff here, that'd be a great way to make it like a big thing that can earn money.
Why would you ever let your community do things?
Mm-hmm. Hey, having Star City Games do a bunch of them for like, you know, that helps a lot. Having other people run
it really does help.
At least they don't like sue their community like a certain Japanese company does.
Hey, they could have sent more Pinkertons out.
If you are in, I think, Europe, Japan, or the US, you're good to go, but there are parts of the world that are still getting shafted, aka, I'm sorry, Latin America.
Yeah, maybe one day Latin America and Africa and the Arab world.
Yeah.
You don't exist to Wizards of the Coast.
But again, like, there are players in these regions!
Yeah.
You know, like, I haven't heard as much about, like, the African scene or, like, you know, other areas in, like, Southeast Asia and stuff like that. But certainly, you hear a lot about the Latin America Magic Gathering players.
Oh, the Latin American one's big.
Yeah, and they're shafted so many times. I feel bad for them. You know,
it sucks.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
No.
We can hop on to our next one here. Because guess what? We're getting a... Oh, I did have that. We're getting a D&D Direct.
Yay! Question mark.
Yeah. So, on the 27th, so 3 days from now, they have announced a D&D Direct.
Do I spend my Tuesday off even watching that? I probably should.
It's at noon. I'm usually.
Will I be doing anything at noon? I'll probably be doing nothing.
I gotta be honest, I don't know if I want to watch it live.
Someone should watch it.
Yeah. So
I don't know if I want to do it live though.
I will definitely watch it again. It's just I don't know about live. We'll know again.
I'll definitely watch people talk about it.
They'll apparently show us more about Player's Handbook 2024. Not that we already don't know a lot. Okay, whatever.
Cool.
More stuff post the, and that is a good thing. What's coming out after the core rulebooks?
Yes,
downloads.
We need to know that.
And then, hey, we're talking more about Project Sigil, which is definitely not going to be over monetized. Cough, cough.
Oh,
cough,
absolutely not. They wouldn't dream of that.
That's not going to be a thing. Also interestingly enough, which I heard someone talk about, this is going to be on their YouTube channel. They're going to be streaming.
They're streaming on YouTube.
Yeah, they have been using their Twitch channel for, anything. For reasons. I don't know. Maybe they got an argument with Twitch. Maybe YouTube
might just be easier on their system.
Is generally, if YouTube... See, here's the thing. If you don't actually care about, interacting with the chat during a thing, like a corporate thing, YouTube is actually generally easier.
YouTube is one of the legitimately best streaming services, but its community and chat interaction just is not existing.
Yeah.
The other thing with YouTube I can think is YouTube will just automatically save the VOD.
Yep.
Yep.
They don't have to export anything.
So it sounds like there's some advantages they're taking. There's some things they're taking advantage of for this, but yeah. Then they do mention there's even there's announcements and a special collab and stuff like that. Who knows what?
Collab.
Cool. Yep, that's D&D Direct coming up. It'll be at noon on EST, 9 a.m. Pacific time on Tuesday. So looking forward to that. Great.
Woo.
I just realized this is really annoying for people with jobs.
Yes, it's a very inconvenient time to do a thing.
Yeah.
That so
I get you doing... Well, yeah, I get it they're doing it during their work time, but it's
They're doing it their work time, but they're also doing it on, a Tuesday afternoon where a majority of the audience is going to be at work or asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So...
It's weird.
Anyway, I'm probably not going to watch it then.
I will watch it. At the very least, I'll watch a VOD or a breakdown of it.
Oh, I didn't give the link. Let me give the link.
No, you didn't. I looked it up myself.
D&D Beyond. I forgot to give the link.
I didn't look it up.
There's the link.
D&D Beyond.
I know.
Ew.
So, D&D is going to be on the cover of Time magazine, which it was an interesting topic, but it's also does Time magazine matter as much at this point in time?
Yes and no.
Time is still
Time is the one magazine that's still prestigious. Time and the Rolling Stones, those are the two that will always kind of matter for a long time.
Okay, I can see that.
Time has been around forever.
Yeah.
In magazines, you also got to think, there's some magazines which, still have a lot of, first off, some people really do reading magazines still.
Yeah, I had Game Informer up until it was forcibly shut down.
Yeah. Two, there's always a place for magazines for places waiting rooms and such.
Hey, and with print media, they can't just
Don't tell me you've never looked at that little tray and been what's that?
Hey, and you know what's really cool about print media? They can't just shut the company down and delete all of the archive at once. And doom everyone's work to non-existence.
Yeah. Not gonna lie, I like the comments in this link here. One of them is, that's a sexy cover model, and of course, want the magazine, but also kind of want to die.
Get this magazine. Yeah,
it's a good die.
I'm not a magazine collector, but I can recognize when a magazine might have potential value in the future.
Sure.
That's a collector's item.
I actually subscribed to National Geographic for a while.
That's a good magazine. It was, yeah, I don't know if it's a good publication anymore, but it was very good for a long time.
Yep.
I'm sure it's still fine now.
Yeah. National Geographic, I mean, I actually, yeah, so like that's one I also think will stick around for a while just because of subject matter, but that might also transfer more online. I know they still have a big online presence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll kind of be a thing that we'll have to kind of see how it develops.
I mean, something that I wonder why they like things don't do. Like, I would probably get more into like a magazine if I could subscribe and have it like downloaded onto like my tablet automatically and like a subscription and like flip through it that way.
There might be a few that actually do that now, but I'd have to look.
Anyway, that's just something I thought of. I'm like, I have not heard of this.
That feels like something a couple would do at this point, but who knows?
Yeah.
So we got something tangentially related to D&D to talk about here, which is interesting, and that's this new upcoming anthology series, Secret Level.
Oh, this looked cool when they announced it.
Yeah, it's a bunch of like video games slash
bunch of nerd shit.
Yeah. Dungeons & Dragons is there. If you see the thing they do, you can see some like a gold dragon, which is apparently like the old gold dragon's design, not the new one they've done from.
I thought it was Tiamat that was in the.
They also show Tiamat
teaser.
Well, the gold dragon seems to like
yeah.
There's like a gold dragon's like I guess giving someone a quest or something, and I guess it's fighting against Tiamat. I don't know. It's an anthology series.
Yeah, this by the Love, Death, and Robots people, and Love, Death, and Robots is amazing.
Yeah. There's some interesting ones on here. D&D, of course, Warhammer is pretty big ones.
Armored Core, baby. Armored Core is getting recognition finally.
Yeah. Pac-Man, Mega Man, Spelunky.
Spelunky is a wild one.
Yes. I'll allow to go. It'll be interesting to see. But, like, hey, you know, anthology series are neat. And this one has some nerd traction, so, hey. That's good.
Yeah.
Yep. Alright. So this is something that I think I kind of missed once before when we were kind of talking about it. And that's, apparently there was some controversy to Paizo's fan content policy update.
I didn't even know they updated their thing.
Yeah, I'll put a link here, because they've now reversed their update or something. I guess it wasn't good, whatever it was. They terminated their community use policy and replaced it with a new fan content policy. So they're rectifying. They're reinstating the community use policy that existed over 15 years, with a few minor updates and clarifications to make using the policy even easier. I guess they had an improved product listed community use registry and clarifications of previously FAQ and something not addressed. I don't know what the problem was overall, though. Yeah.
What?
Okay.
It added permissions for monetization for creators. That's the big one. Creators can monetize their work in limited circumstances.
Okay, so it made it more difficult for like people to monetize work, I guess, is what it was. Okay.
The community use policy, I guess, didn't allow for monetization.
And the fan content policy basically took it in a different direction that was probably worse, I guess?
Maybe.
I don't know. That's interesting.
People seem happy about these changes, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it seems like they tried to do something good, but in completely rewriting their old thing, it just screwed a lot of other stuff up legally.
Yeah. So they basically are just walking back and saying, hey, you know, we recognize we made an error, and we're just going back to the old one and making minor corrections to that one. And it's like, okay. Again, I feel like they probably didn't have, like, a really bad idea in mind, because it's Paizo and they have a lot of goodwill. But, you know, people make mistakes.
Paizo's still a company.
Yeah. Someone somewhere said, this is a great idea, this is how we can do it. And then afterward, they're like, maybe this wasn't a great idea. Maybe we shouldn't have gone that way.
Paizo's still a company, and a company is not your friend.
Yep. So yep, that's that little bit there.
But at least they made it better.
But they're at least a company that isn't.
They're not wizards.
They may not be your friend because no company is, but at least they're not evil.
Yeah, they're not comic book level evil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Amazon and Hasbro.
Unfortunately, that's true.
Honestly, I wouldn't put wizards themselves in the comically evil side. I'd just put their boss in it.
I've seen who they put in charge of their company at this point. I would say they're pretty bad.
Yeah, some of the people they have in charge just aren't great. And just
I agree, but I just feel like there's too many good people working at the company for me to like hate it. Anyway.
No, there's a lot of good people working at Blizzard. Blizzard's still a shit company.
Yeah, that's true.
Alright, want to talk about some rival academies?
This
is a...
It depends. Do they rival me?
They could. I mean, honestly, you can fight with them, I'm sure.
Do I get plus 0.5 influence if I rival them back?
Sure. That's a game reference that I both recognize and can't...
Stellaris Tantus.
Oh, that's right. It's been a while since I have to play Stellaris again. I've missed it some like the last couple of...
The Machine Age is a good expansion. You should play it.
Yeah. So this is basically they're introducing like 6 sponsor schools from across Galarian and doing a setting book about meetings of schools and competitions between them. So it's kind of a neat idea.
They've done Magic School before, so this is kind of fun. Yeah.
So they talk a little bit about the ones there. The only one that I recognize off the top of my head, of course, is the University of Lepidstadt, because cough, cough, carrying crown. It's in there.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I recognize any of these. Quick Google.
Let's see here. I might have heard about the Magambia in briefing. We're looking up some stuff in Long Expanse. The Academy from Talbot.
Okay, I know.
Gambia?
This is stupid. I know the core Kobe, the C one.
Mm-hmm.
I know that one because it's it's on the back of a giant elephant. That's the only reason I know about it.
Just ask me if you want a pronunciation. I can at least make something that sounds confidently good.
Oh wait, it's both the name of the institution and the Titanic Elephantine headmaster on whose back it's resting. So the giant elephant that the school rests is its headmaster.
Yeah, that's the only reason I know about this because it's so weird.
It's the first one.
It wanders through the Fae dimension.
The first one, the realm of the Fae. It's just a giant elephant with a... Alright,
I know Lepidstadt because unfortunately I played a character who worked there in a game.
Yeah. Could be better.
Uh-huh. Will Pathfinder do a trope that D&D has already done and do it better yet again?
Definitely.
Probably.
Because I remember they did Strixhaven a while back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it looks like those are the main schools, but you might learn about some other smaller schools. So it's an interesting idea of developing, like, academies and styles of magic, because, I mean, it's a big part of a lot of settings and stuff, like, too, where people learn, like, a lot of things when it comes to spellcasting.
Schools is a common and, honestly, awesome trope to run a game with.
Yeah, you can either go to college for multiple years or go on a world-saving adventure. That's your choice. That's how you become a level 20 wizard. You either go to school or you go on a world-saving adventure.
Sometimes you do both. You start out at school and you're like, well, a world-saving adventure is happening. I guess we should get involved in that.
Or you're given a Pokeball and kicked out of your house.
Yeah.
That's when you're 9.
You're given a weird rat creature and told to go into the wilderness.
All right, my young 9-year-old.
It's called playing a ranger.
You're not wrong.
Here's this pet rat, and once you level up 3 times, it will aid you in combat. What's a level? Get out of my house, Timmy.
Alright. So
apparently levels are actually a thing in the Pokemon
levels
games.
are an actual thing people refer to in Pathfinder, and it's wild.
Oh wait, really?
Yeah, I think there is, like, I think in World people do make mention of levels which is very silly.
So do you want one last fight? Alright.
Yeah.
I'll share this one with you. Before we go,
Oh,
circle back
animated.
to I know. I found
Ooh,
a nice
fancy.
and I found a nice GIF of it. It's on their website, and I was able to put it over there. So it's a roguelike card-based RPG for 1 to 4 players trying to defeat their final nemesis or die trying. So I'm guessing this is probably a RPG where you're going on one adventure kind of things, which are fine. I don't mind the single session kind of adventures.
I like card-based RPGs. Those are fun.
Yeah, I think a kind of single adventure kind of RPG is a little better for a card-based one. Definitely, I think it goes to that kind of like entire thing.
Yeah.
They have multiple characters and nemesises, so you can do it more than once, and probably the combination of characters and nemesi means that it's a replayable thing. Definitely
True.
And there's deck building at the start of the game, which can help change the game too. There's definitely interesting concept, kind of cool.
It's pretty fun.
Coming to Kickstarter soon, and they've got a little thing. So I just wanted to. This one looked really awesome and had a very interesting concept, so I wanted to shout it out here. I like shouting out little things like this. Cool. I do.
Yeah. Honestly, I might kickstart it when it goes live.
Yeah.
This looks fun.
So, moving from then, I do have 2 more Kickstarter things before we circle back to some other stuff a little bit. Anyway, let's go to 80s Adventure. I'll link it here. Adventure. I did that pretty wrong. It's fine. Whatever. There you go. So this is basically, it's basically putting like 5e inspired type things into the 80s. That's the easiest way of saying it.
For the 90s, I might care more.
I'm good. I don't like the
Damn,
90s.
damn you 90s! Damn you 90s!
A magical slinky. I'm sorry, it's just like magic items and spells, and one of the pictures is a slinky, and I'm just like, what would a magical slinky do?
I don't know, but it's the same thing that you get your like, it's like a fuzzy boot rollerblades too there.
Yeah.
I
think it's the spring of walking. So he just places it down and it walks forward. Is that literally how it does?
I'm going to assume yes. I'm just going to assume yes, and that's hilarious, and I think it's great, and I think we should all love that very much for us. Look, I'm not going to lie, cool stuff like that, or very creative stuff like this is very interesting. I do enjoy it. I did spell that. That's fine. Cool.
I'm not going to back this, but maybe I'll take a look at it when it's out.
I mean, it's cool ideas. There's some... The 80s is one of those times that's, like, thought about in very interesting ways, so I'm not going to lie. But again, it's also, like, it's like 40 years ago at this point in time. It's like, god damn. I don't remember much of the 80s. I wasn't around in it. I don't have brain power to remember the 80s, I was too young.
I kind of remember the 90s. I was born in the 90s, but at least I, was 7 by the time it was, 99.
Yeah, I remember the 90s more by then. Like, there's bits and pieces in, the 80s that It's an interesting time period. I guess because it's very classic at this point in time and has its own style.
It's a very unique style in the time period and where people thought the technology was going.
Yeah.
A lot of things were basically a lot of the tech and stuff was very much built around what people thought things were going to be able to become.
Yeah. A bunch of subclasses, magic items, spells, monsters, layers. Apparently a mall is a layer.
Makes sense to me.
Fight monsters in the mall.
You can play zombies at the mall. Classic.
Honestly, this reminds me so much of the Dimension 20 High, something high.
Fantasy High.
Fantasy High, thank you.
Very good series.
Yep, I didn't finish it. But yeah, that's what this reminds me of.
It's a neat thing. I can't lie. Pretty neat. It's definitely a unusual thing.
It does make me. It does really though make me want to run this though. Like in a way, like not in like a school sense, like the Fantasy High is, but now just like in like an '80s kind of weird thing. '80s are so weird. '80s was such a weird time. '80s and '90s.
Yeah. I will not disagree with that. That was a very unusual time. So, yep. You can check that out if you're interested in that one. That was a little bit of a cool one. There's one more Kickstarter I did want to mention, because this one is also kind of interesting, because it is now officially the highest pledged RPG in Kickstarter history at this point.
That makes sense. It's Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah. So it is Cosmere RPG, and it is. Do you wish to have an arm and or a leg to it's reached 10 million now. I'm not gonna lie.
Surprise me.
When I first came to this page earlier today, to get this set up for here, it was only at 9 million. Still, it's like 9.7 or something. So it's gained a lot.
Love Brandon Sanderson.
I don't know a lot about Brandon Sanderson.
He writes alright books.
Yeah.
I don't like his books that much. But yeah, he writes alright books. That's my opinion on it.
I'm just trying.
He writes a lot of books.
I feel like I've heard of him recently. Yeah, Mistborn is. Oh, okay. That's what this is. Mistborn.
Yeah, Mistborn and a couple of his other ones. Mistborn, I think, is Mistborn and Stormlight Archives are his two most popular, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've heard of both of them, but I feel like there's something I've read.
Okay.
I've actually read of his, but I don't know.
I think we've talked about it a little before, because we talked about when Brotherwise did a
Yes,
RPG
we did talk about
before.
Brotherwise before.
Yeah.
Because they did the Stormlight one, and
Yes.
this I guess is the newer one, Cosmere. So interesting enough. They are also apparently planning. It expands to include Mistborn in 2026. So maybe they'll have more books for even more of this stuff, and
Probably,
maybe
I think Cosmere is Brandon Sanderson's universe.
Okay. So they're going to expand into more books and stuff like this.
Yeah.
Neat enough. Seems popular. I cannot say it's not popular with how much people have
People
pledged.
love this man.
It's
he
like
cannot be stopped.
I've heard the name, but I really just haven't heard enough to like see the popularity. But okay,
People love him. His books are alright. I think he's a fine fantasy author. I'm just not a big fan of fantasy literature, personally. I know this is the man who has the record for the most money made on Kickstarter ever, and it was like 40 million.
I'm not gonna lie, it makes sense.
So yeah, people just love giving this guy money.
Yeah,
I guess he gives products at very least, so it's not like
his
not
books are
successful.
of quality. I do like the Mistborn series a lot.
Yeah.
And,
I'm just trying to think of. I don't think I've actually read anything of his.
I know I have.
Me because I feel like I've heard of him.
He also finished out Will Time, I think.
It's hard
I've heard of him.
But yeah, it's hard for me because I forget who writes things a lot because I do audiobooks, so I just kind of hit play constantly. So I have to remind myself who certain authors are. I do like to go back and investigate books I like for authors and see if they've written other things. I've gotten some good book series from that. Like I like some of the books by Christine Catherine Rush is her name. Anyway, and stuff like that. She puts out books so fast, though. It's like, oh, I'm not gonna keep up.
Some
with
authors just put books out like crazy, and some authors put one book out every 20 years.
So, I got 2 tabletop-related topics to talk about here before we circle back into D&D. And first one is, of course, an interesting one, and that's there's a Settlers of Catan novel.
Yeah, I did hear about this.
How does that work?
Well, Settlers of Catan, it's like a game. I guess it has you could easily make a story out of it, I guess,
Yeah, it's like, I could see you making, that's the thing, Clue...
Well, it makes sense.
Makes sense to me, because there's, it literally is a murder mystery, and you could make a book out of it. It even has characters. But, Settlers of Catan, it doesn't have characters, it's just kind of a concept. It's a island surrounded by ocean that you're trying to populate, and it's, warring communities. I can see how you can make a book out of that concept, but it's not really a Settlers of Catan book.
Yeah, well, what it says here for the overview, it's a 650-page novel, so it's a pretty big novel, and it's historical fiction with the Catan label fairly haphazardly. Look, in the year 1850, the Sea of Northern Europe, a small coastal village of Elspon, falls prey to marauding neighbors. Their food stores pillaged, women and children stolen, livestock destroyed, the village left to barely survive the harsh winter. A contemplative and drastic solution to their recurring hardships, leaving the only village they ever known. Fostering brothers lead the people on epic quest to a mythic island home, but without knowledge of exactly where the island is, they must trust the gods to deliver them safety. Lost at sea and set adrift, extraordinarily violent storm washed them short of the island famed in pagan lore, Catan. Catan.
I'm reading the rest of what has happened. What is this article? What bizarro world have I landed? This is like the Minecraft movie. To me. How do you make a story out of this? Why don't you just write a story and you slap the name on it?
Minecraft, weirdly enough, has actually had enough, tangential lore about it to where, it actually kind of has lore now. It's just not officially tied to the game. It's, tied to its side products.
Apparently it's filled with religious themes.
That doesn't surprise me. Christian slave. What is happening? In the middle there? Christian slave. What's happening? Fair enough, I guess. You're free to write whatever you want to write, and if someone lets you put their IP on it, that's completely fine.
Wow. I love the article here. Is your first reaction is, what the fuck? Good news, you're probably a normal person. The story gets more bizarre and unhinged. There's moments of non-consensual sex, murder, brutal executions,
what is happening? What is happening? Why is this
This is a Settlers of Catan novel, and this is what the fuck is this?
I kind of agree what he said, where it's no one would expect to set a Settlers of Catan novel. Settlers of Catan is kind of a very tame, almost children's game, which would give a parent an impression.
It is about colonization, so making it brutal if you write a story there does make sense.
I mean, it does to a degree make sense.
Yes and
but
no.
It is a colonization game, and colonization is always brutal.
Yes,
it's
no. It depends. Its colonization is always brutal if there are people where you're going, which there usually is, but not always.
It can be brutal in nature, but that's a different thing entirely. But, yes, it's if there's no one there, I can see how, yes. And it doesn't... I don't know if there was people on this mythical island of Catan.
Well, in the story there is, apparently. It seems like it.
Oh, God. So, yeah. So it is kind of... Is this a satire of colonization things? Through the glove of Catan?
If you're going to do anything, you should mock colonization and make people more aware of how bad it was. How truly awful things were when people call it that stuff.
But that's the.
Why would you? If I owned Settlers of Catan, why would I approve this? This feels detrimental to my brand.
I mean, there is one possible reason they might have agreed to this, and that is buckets and buckets of money.
Also, it's German, so it makes sense. Catan is a German game.
Yeah.
And Germans do their dark stories.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, speaking of dark stories, haha, segue, haha, haha. hey, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines does still exist.
Dude, this game's never fucking coming out.
And it's been delayed.
This game is never coming out. Just cancel it. Just cancel it. Just write it off as a tax thing. It's never coming out.
Can you post the link?
Oh, sorry. I didn't press enter on the put the link in the chat. There you go.
Bro, what's gonna come out for a Silk Song or Vampire Masquerade Bloodlines 2?
Silk Song, definitely.
At very least, Silk Song, that you can tell they're a small team working on a huge game, so it takes a while. You know, glad they announced it, but again, like Bloodlines 2, is this going to be a worse development period?
Bloodlines 2 is it's at this point is worse than the development history of the first game.
I was gonna say Duke Nukem Forever.
I don't think it can get as bad as Duke Nukem Forever. Though I think Duke Nukem Forever has recently been dethroned as the longest game in development. But I think it's weird because I think it's now Star Citizen, which is technically a functional product at the moment.
Even though I don't think they'll ever finish it because it's just.
Oh no, because like no one's gonna tell them no, and they have too many ideas.
And it's just a storefront to sell things.
It's a storefront to sell ships, and also like apparently pretty fun what they've made. Oh, that's not my jam. Anyways, this game is never gonna come out.
They're saying first half of 2025.
I don't believe that. This game has been supposed to come out since like 2015.
It's also okay. I'm curious. Like, there was supposed to be a vampire like MMO. Like, was that like turned into Bloodlines 2 or related in any way?
No, I don't think it was.
I know that thing got canceled, but I was like,
the World of Darkness MMO got canceled in 2014.
And this has this has changed to an action RPG rather than a traditional RPG.
I mean, I like games with the Chinese remakes. I don't see this being like a good game if it comes out at this point because it's been through the ringer of development for so long.
And again, like I think people that really like Bloodlines didn't like it for the action RPG side of it.
Bloodlines is a horrendous game to play. I will just tell you that you need so many community mods to make that game playable.
Yes, there's one main community mod that I was able to get basically working for, but it's a community mod that's basically fixes the majority of the major crashes and stuff like that. There's still issues with the game because it's an old game, and I will not lie about that at all. And it's not a very well-made game.
No, it's I killed Troika Games.
That's a really cool
I
idea.
like the title, how it's like Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 hasn't been canceled yet, but it has been delayed again.
Yeah, I mean, just cancel it.
Part of me's just like, there's almost like
Write
this
it
point
off
where
for
I'm
taxes.
just like, yeah, and part of me is just like, I don't think you can technically do it in that way, but yeah.
I feel like if this comes out, no one's gonna play it, regardless, because it's been too long. It's an action game now, which is not going to appeal to the core fan base. It's a game by the Chinese room, which is also not going to appeal to the larger audience because they make very niche games.
Yeah. Again, we can hope that there's something out of it, but
if this ever comes out, I want a developer documentary on this game. I need to know how this went wrong in every detail, because like God, it could have been so good.
So, shall we get to the D&D Beyond Change log?
I'm gonna shout out something first. Mm-hmm. If you are, I'm gonna close the chat. I pressed the wrong button. Paste. Anyways, hey, IO Publishing, the people who did the Why Slay Dragons You Could Be Fishing book, are doing a new book that's about monsters and crafting. It's currently up on Backit, and 5e needs those rules. Also, I own the fishing book. It's very well made.
Well,
I highly recommend anything by IO Publishing.
So bonus link.
IO Publishing make good things.
Yeah, so there's a little bonus link there for people. Alright, so
now we can move on to the doom and gloom.
They have this big change log, and then they have a clarification on the changelog, which came out very soon
Yes.
after, because they basically had to, I don't know if it's not necessarily backpedaling, but like explain stuff more, and
But
it's still not.
In the changelog, they said that they were going to be replacing spells and magic items to the 2024 stuff, which is basically all they said about it. And people were like, what if I don't want to use that? Are you going to force me to use it? The answer is kinda.
The answer is still yes on your character.
The answer is kinda, because to use the 2014 stuff, you'll have a legacy compendium for it, but you can't put that compendium onto the character sheet.
Yeah.
So you have to make a homebrew for it.
A big thing to explain here is they are not getting rid of anything you bought. You can still check out all that stuff. This is really like the big issues that I think people had with this is really the character sheet stuff.
Yes.
And I linked in my Discord the Nerd Merchant talking about this a little bit, and I have not seen a good view of the new character sheet. But what I've heard from people, it's bad. And also what I've heard from people, which is an add-on to this thing just to mention, is it's not in the player's handbook.
No, it's not.
You have to buy character sheets.
Yeah, you have to buy character sheets. It's choice, in my opinion. They are $15 for I think you get 50 of them.
Oh man, paper. Same paper over and over again.
I don't mind.
Wait, you have to buy them every time?
No, you get a packet of 50 with them when you buy it.
But still, it's like...
it's $15 for 50 character sheets, which is a lot of money for paper.
Yeah. And for just character sheets, because they are
they're
probably not going to have any major art on them. Again, if they're very high quality paper
to
character
put
sheets,
into comparison,
that could be really cool.
The 2014 character sheet for the same number of sheets is $10.
Oh, you have to pay for those too? Okay.
Yeah, you do have to pay for those.
Well,
but you do get some with a player's handbook, is the thing.
The book, there's a copy of it in the back of the player's handbook.
There's printout,
obviously, yes.
You can print one out, because the fucking D&D's been out forever, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But if you want to go through the official channels, you do have to buy a packet of character sheets. Or be like me, when I did physical, I had one laminated character sheet that I could erase shit on.
Oh, okay, wait, so you order a packet of 50 printed...
You order a packet, you get 50, and you just have 50 character sheets.
Delivered to you.
Yeah, and it gets delivered to you, and then when those are out, you have to buy it more. You have to buy it.
Sorry, I misunderstood. I thought D&D Beyond to...
No, this is physical sheets.
Okay.
That's physical sheets, but...
D&D Beyond, you can make as many characters as you want.
But again, it's related... It's related to a degree because it's all about character creation in D&D Beyond. That's why I kind of brought it up. And the thing is, I haven't used the character creation in D&D Beyond, but it sounds
bad.
like... Well, at very least, the way it sounds like, there's a lot of interesting options in it that people do, the people that use it like. But will those things that the people like about it stay because they are switching to a new sheet, which is based around this new sheet, which it seems that most people say they don't like.
Yeah. So if you've watched the show since I've been on, I have been a huge proponent every time D&D Beyond comes up to never use this service, because this is why.
It's on Roll20 is awful. We'll talk about the Roll20.
The Roll20 sheet's pretty bad. But I have talked about D&D Beyond since its inception. I have always said that this is a terrible service. And I've been proven time and time again that it is not a good service, because especially when they did the big sweeping lore changes to Drow and stuff, they just removed the old lore. It was gone. You couldn't access it. I believe they gave it back eventually, but we had to fight for that. This is just a bad change, because what if you have a campaign that's ongoing? Are they just going to yeet your character sheet into the garbage and say, here, use this one instead, also you can't use any of your old stuff?
So, again, they're updating the rules. much like there's the free rules of 2014, there's going to be a version of the free rules of 2024. That's fine stuff. You still own all your books. It will basically, so like if you had the Player's Handbook 2024 and the Player's Handbook 2014, you'd have both of them in your books if you're like actually referencing your books in their database, you know. So it's not like you can't see these things. It's just that like if you're using it for character sheet building, you have to use the 2024, anything that's been updated in 2024. Which again is an interesting thing because they do talk about magic items in here a little bit because there's only 2 magic items that have been updated, and the rest of them are to be determined.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Yeah. The magic items are just a to be determined in the future
It's so bad.
I think there's better ways to implement this, you know, like, definitely, and I feel like they just aren't implementing it very well. I think that's the only thing I'm going to say.
Yep.
You know.
It's like the implementation of this is so clunky because the legacy content's gonna be there because they're keeping all the legacy stuff. There's a legacy tag that already exists currently because of Mordenkainen.
And they're putting out legacy... Well, they're just putting more stuff in the legacy tag. You know?
But the thing that's of everyone's concern that they've made no mention is, can you use the old character sheets? Are you going to be forced to use all the new stuff? Is that compendium going to be accessible to the new sheet, which they're going to make people use?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, it's...
And the clarification is really bad because it doesn't address any of the actual concerns that people had.
Yeah.
It addresses you won't lose access to content, which is a good thing to address because that was a big concern, but it addresses nothing else.
Yeah. It's just a mess that they're doing.
Yeah, it just sucks.
Yeah, it just sucks. I wish they would, you know... Again, I'm not someone that uses D&D Beyond, but I do understand there are plenty of people that use it for their sheets and stuff like that, and characters and all that kind of stuff. Great on you. That's what you want to use, you know? Playing around with their ability to use that stuff and, like, you know, replacing things. And again, I think it's... Another one of those things is... Plenty of spells got buffed, but there's also spells that
Plenty of spells got buffed. Plenty of spells got ruined.
Yeah. So it's sort of like... If you're not updating to 2024 and you're still using D&D Beyond, you're kind of getting screwed over here a little bit, you know? Because there's people that probably do still use D&D Beyond, but aren't going to update, and your character sheets are going to be forced
If you're mid-campaign, you can't update.
Yeah.
The rules aren't compatible. The rules are like baseline barely compatible. The power creep of the new stuff is too much for old stuff.
If people... You know, some people are going to update their rules. Some people are going to take some things in 2020. There are probably some people that aren't going to like these rules overall and not going to do them. And if you're using D&D Beyond, you don't have that choice now, which kind of sucks. You know, it's... I would have liked to have seen them basically do like, you could do a legacy character sheet now. It's going to be marked as legacy and can only use for legacy things. You could still use the old character sheet and you have the new one. And, you know, like... Something like that, or you know, there's other ways you could have done this. Yeah. I don't know. It just sounds like it's very clunky and a little forced to it too. They're shoving it in people's faces, which isn't the best way of selling.
Here, use this new thing. Shoves into face.
Yeah. Again, it's one of those things. Is like. I definitely have that mixed feelings about 5.5, as we're kind of calling it here. I think, you know, it's an interesting, a lot of ideas there. It could have been cooked a little bit more. Is this worth the price? I don't think that is necessarily worth the price, because it's a lot of reprinted material. If you've never been in D&D, I think it would be fine. But for, like, old players, definitely not thinking it's worth the, you know, spending a lot more money on this again. But, yeah, I don't like it, even, like, you know, with my both sort of mixed feelings about it. Shoving it in my face still doesn't make me like it more.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for these people.
Well, I haven't looked into it as in much detail as I'd like. I definitely probably would say, you know what, Level Up Advanced 5th Edition is probably better than than the new 5.5.
Yeah. It's
Which is basically just 5th edition with like a bunch of extra thought put into it.
You know, I have one thing to say. Hey, if you're a D&D player, welcome to the party, because this has been happening to Magic players for like 20 years.
Yeah, sorry, Magic players.
It finally hit you guys, D&D.
Look,
I'm
it actually
sorry.
has happened to D&D before too. It's just this is the first time it's happened since 5th edition.
Yeah, I'm sorry, 5th edition players, but Wizards kind of sucks.
Yeah, Wizards kind of sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this D&D Beyond stuff could have been like avoided very easily.
So, we got a couple of little just side things here about some of the things we know, and I'm just going to switch our images over here. That's very large. So the first one here, which I will link now, is, hey, guess what Wizards is doing? And this is a classic move of, like, unfortunately a lot of industries, technically, and video game industry too, they're rehiring those jobs.
Oh, dude, you can work for Wizards for 6 months and they fire you. Who wouldn't want that?
I mean, again, it's like...
It's literally... No, okay, I actually know what this
common.
is, and I feel like I mentioned something at the time. Literally, they're just firing long-term employees who have worked up a bunch of raises and hiring on new people who they can pay less.
Which is
less experienced.
Funny, because it's actually more expensive to do that.
Yep, but for whatever reason, but see, here's the thing. You can fire a bunch of people late in the year to make your numbers look better, and then hire them on the beginning of the next year.
Yep.
It's numbers
common.
look good, even though it spends us takes a lot more money, and then we also have a less experienced team who doesn't really know what they're doing, that has to take a while to get into the job. And
Plus,
even then,
you have the dynamic of not knowing if people work well together, and you're probably going to have to fire people who turned out to be a problem, and then rehire more people.
It is a very common thing in a lot of industries, and it never works out. It never works out.
I know that, but I'm saying, like, I saw this coming. I'm at the time when they fired all the people, I literally said this is probably what they're doing.
I would never want to work for Wizards of the Coast at this point, or anything related to Hasbro at all.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat.
This article links to their job posting, though, so you can check it out. You know, if you're interested in looking at it.
You want to get fired in a year? Thumbs up. You're just going to do it again.
It's just when things don't look good again, they're going to do it again.
I mean, what'll happen is they'll hire you on to do some releases, and then they'll fire you when they don't have any releases. That's a common thing with release structure similar to these kind of games or video games. Is they'll hire you on for this big product comes out the door with you, get.
Yeah.
Again, you know, it's the thing that we do see in a lot of companies.
It kills creatives.
It does kill creatives.
It kills creatives.
There's a lot of industries that this happens in, and they're not good industries. They're stagnate. They have problems, and this is just
I'd say companies rather than industries. While some industries have more companies that do this. Yeah.
Well, I think this happens a bunch in like video game industries and
it is very. It is, although it depends. Again, some companies will just move you to a new project when the project is done, whereas some will fire you.
What's the difference between, like, you know, how good a company is sometimes? But anyway, 3 more small topics to hit on here. So this is an interesting one. I'll change the subject here, and that's we do see some magic items from the DMG from some of the material they have published, and we know for a fact they're doing the magic items from the D&D cartoon.
Yeah, I think that's fine. It's funny.
It's fine. It's funny.
It's a good nod to where D&D came from. However, I wish these nods didn't come with all the bad stuff that's happening.
I didn't think we needed an entire book published for just it. I would hope we see more magic items. We don't know, you know, at this point in time.
I would assume that there's going to be changes to a lot of items. But if they just reprint a lot of the items, I'm gonna be a little disappointed.
if it's a lot of reprints and this is basically all we get for like new stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. It looks like they're still doing the rare tags rather than giving prices.
Oh, they might have a price chart
separate
that's
table.
a little bit better, but
It
Okay.
yeah.
maybe a little
They
more
are-
condensed than what the the current one is.
This was something mentioned with this picture that I saw somewhere else, someone talking about it, that they, in this, which you can see, I think this is an image from their D&D Direct video. They show off this picture. So there's like a snapshot of that,
Yeah.
of them showing off stuff they're going to do for it. Yeah, we don't see prices in here for the DMG, which was something people were hoping for. I don't know if they're doing it better or what. Maybe
if it's just a price chart, that's fine.
Yeah.
I feel
actually-
though the fact that they're not including, because I feel like if you're going to do a price chart, you might as well also include it with the item list. I mean, it takes nothing to say potion rare, like potion, rare, 250 GP or whatever, you know?
Well, the thing is, they might have a more of a smaller range, because I actually dislike Pathfinder in that everything has a set price, because that leads into the issue of, hey, here's like the amount of gold you need to be a character coming in at this level. Here's all that gold, now go figure stuff out.
They actually do that differently for 2E.
I know 2E is a little bit better with it.
Yeah, because they more say you get this many items of this level rather than saying you get a certain amount of gold.
Yeah, because
You get-
Pathfinder 1E, for those who don't know, is just like, oh, you're a level A character coming in this campaign. Here's this pile of gold. Figure it out.
That's very
They don't
classic.
even okay, actually, like looking at that section, I looked at that section at one point fairly recently, and it's not even like that. It's like these are the target numbers you should have for your characters at around these levels for stuff, and it should be split up into these categories, some of which are temporary magic items. So players, if you send a player in with that full cash, technically
They're a little bit more than they should be. That thing is like breaking down how you're supposed to spend it is so anal retentive and annoying.
It's really bad.
I've rarely actually used that because it would be more proper for the amount of money and funding you're supposed to actually do, but it's just so like
AP. This is specifically a problem in Adventure Paths where the DM has really no control over the loot sheet.
Yeah.
Because Adventure Paths don't like to give you items or money.
So
yeah.
I got a bigger kind of topic to talk about that we can dive into because it's an interesting one for a second here before a small one to finish up. And by bigger, I mean it's one that we're probably going to discuss more, even though there's not a lot of it. There was this nice interview with Jess Lanzio.
Yeah,
and it is getting
bad.
some infamy.
This interview is bad. This is...
Who saw that?
He did, you know...
Infamy? Whatever, it's close enough.
Spelling's never been your strong suit.
It's never
in the
been my
time I've known you.
It never really is. Anyway. There are things that are said in here, like, I'm just going to go to the end of the interview for just this line to start out with. The person says, I'll use filthy magic terminology first. When you have a magic card, it's great, and you love your deck, and a new one comes out, and it's strictly better, and you're going to want to use it. And I think you're going to want to see, with the core rule books, people want to look at the Warlock and say, sick, and say, of course we're going to use this Warlock. Power creep in D&D.
Yes. This is bad. This is a terrible way to design your RPGs.
Yeah. Again, maybe there's people on the ground floor that aren't thinking this way, but this is it's
the people up top.
It's the people up top that are thinking, we want power creep. We want the next thing to be bigger so everybody wants to get it so they want to use it. That's not a good mindset.
No,
this
is bad.
Not like, I think the thing is, that kind of thing actually caused a lot of problems in older editions. I'm sorry, 3.5 had power creep up the ass.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
By the time it was done, it was abysmal. I can point out, I'm going to put this out here, Book of the Nine Swords.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you gained an ability just to do 100 damage with a character.
Yep.
Just 100 damage, straight up flat. It was just a thing. I'm sorry, the Book of Nine Swords was so power creepy and was so broken. We banned it for the most part in our games because it was the essence of power creep in 3.5. And it's one of the reasons that, like, when they didn't have as much of that shit in, like, 4th edition. And again, like, it's one of the things that you could tell they were fighting against that in Pathfinder 1st edition. But Pathfinder 1st edition was suffering from some of that kind of stuff. But they did their best to fight against it. But you could still see it there, too. And, you know, it was one of those things that was strained at the back end of the system. You do fight power creep. You don't encourage it!
Yeah. And that's, I think, what makes 2E very nice, is that they've standardized everything, so that way power creep is very hard to bring in.
Yes. They made a good direction that they're like, hey, we're going to do this kind of standardized system that we can do a lot of cool things, but it will help prevent power creep.
Yeah.
You
Are
know,
there some abilities that are better than others? Yes, but...
Will power creep will maybe occur? Sure. I'm sure over its tenure, it will occur.
Yeah,
You're not going to get rid of that.
I haven't seen much in the way that I would call power creep as much as... And they do actually acknowledge certain things being better than others by making them rarer or uncommon or etc.
The other things that are talked about in this article that I do want to mention are... They do kind of talk about Project Sigil in a little bit ways that kind of makes it feel more like the kind of thing that I think I talked about where I was worried with it, where it would be like, you get a free standard, and then you pay for all the fancy new things that you want to use. And it basically has your cosmetic store, like any good video game.
Mm-hmm. We knew that one was coming, though.
Yeah, we knew that was coming with it. And then the other thing is, she mentions basically pooling a Universes Beyond with D&D.
I'm gonna say something that might be controversial.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the next couple of years, there is a real possibility that D&D is done. That Hasbro will see that it is selling less and less and be like, we're just gonna put less money into it.
Well, I think when we say D&D is done, I mean it's for the publishing.
Not dead, not completely dead. It'll continue on, but I think that its popularity has the potential to really start waning, its funding to also really start waning, if a lot of this is very poorly received.
I agree. Like, I think they put so much money into this, which is why they're pushing pre-orders so hard. It's probably because they put a lot of money into it already. Granted, that's probably paying all the new hires they had and retraining people, but, you know, whatever.
This is a real 4th edition situation. I'm just going to say it.
Again, 4th edition was a very good system.
4th edition came out at the wrong time.
I agree.
Because of what kind of game it was.
Yeah. In fact, I feel like more the approach that was bad was more the way they approached it in terms of terminology and wording.
Yeah. 4th edition was meant to come out with a virtual tabletop that was never finished.
Yep. And that was definitely part of the issue.
That was a big problem, because as someone who's played 4th edition a few times, it's very hard to do physically.
Yep.
And I think that this might has the chance to be received as poorly, and it might wane D&D's influence. It won't take it away, because D&D's never going to go away. It's been around for 50 years. But I think that golden era of D&D that we've had for the last 10, that's probably going to disappear.
I think Hasbro's basically going at this... Hasbro's going at this in a very corporate way that's not looking at the franchise and how it works. And they're trying... Because they're... Like, again, I think some of the ideas that they had that they don't seem like they're doing now were fine if they hadn't done the OGL stuff. I think, like, the D&D movie, or, like, stuff like that. Like, expanding out into other things that are related to the worlds and stuff they created aren't a bad idea, you know? Product lines like that, I'm not one that goes for those things, but I don't mind those as much. There were ways to monetize this better. They just took the wrong ways to do it, I think. Or they're trying to go the wrong ways.
I think it's less there are ways to monetize this better, and there are ways just to handle all of this better.
I guess that's a better way to say it.
I'm gonna... Sorry,
monetization isn't the issue. Yeah, I was just about to say, because monetization isn't the issue. The issue is the product they're selling and how important that is in this type of, like, I mean, they can increase the price, but if their product's good, people will buy it.
At very least, she is saying that, like, on the Hasbro side, they want to do a Universes Beyond purely, but at least in Wizards, they are trying to be a little bit more well-behaved on that thing. But again, like, it's from the way that Zillow says it, you know. I don't know what that means for it overall, because Hasbro seems to have a lot of influence there. Like, but what IPs could we see with D&D that we haven't already seen or have their own stuff? That's kind of like one of those difficult things for that kind of side of thing. It's a really weird idea that Hasbro has, you know, that I don't know how they're going to push it.
Yeah, D&D isn't like Magic in that you can just slap an IP onto it and be like, here's a book. There's a lot more effort that goes into balancing a long-term tabletop RPG than balancing cards.
Yes.
And it seems like they don't necessarily care about balance, because they want to just sell you the better version, and better being the stronger version, not necessarily better.
I think also something that's like a misunderstanding here in one of these statements here, that digital play helped as a gateway to tactile play for Magic, because apparently Lanzo worked with Magic. And I can see that, because I'm not going to lie, Arena kind of sucks. It's okay.
Is awful. Well, Arena is awful for anything that isn't just the 1v1 format, which is the worst way to play Magic.
Yeah, it's good for what it does, or sorry, it's okay for what it does, but it's so much very little parts of the entire Magic experience. So I can understand that allowing people to go more into tactile play, like, oh, I can play with more than one person.
Yeah.
Oh, I can, like, you know, go play with my friends and stuff like that. Which they don't have something really for very easily, last I heard. Unless they've implemented it now, but I didn't hear about that.
No, I believe it's still strictly 1v1.
But could you play with your friends?
No, the friend system is absolute garbage.
So see, that's the thing. I can play with my friends. I can play more than 1v1. I can play... What are these other formats that people are talking about that are really interesting?
Yeah,
and I might want to get into.
The friend system on Arena is absolute garbage.
I don't feel like digital play for something like D&D necessarily goes to tactile play, because a Magic game is a lot easier. I can go to a store.
Yeah.
You know, and play with a bunch of people.
Yeah.
D&D also has the there's two things. One, Magic is quite difficult to actually play digitally. Through the legal means, obviously, there's the tabletop sim way of doing it, but that's still kind of a pain in the ass, because you need an external website to build your deck, and then you import the deck, and sometimes it just doesn't work. Playing D&D online is so easy. A lot of people aren't going to play physically, because they can sit at the comfort of their home, on their computer, their tablet, and play at their leisure in comfort, instead of going outside.
I mean, there's also just the idea of there aren't a lot of good places to just go and meet new people for something like D&D.
I would never play D&D in a game store.
Like, yeah, like there are game stores and stuff, but it's like it's. I mean, I feel like I'd rather go there to play board games.
I'd rather go to play Magic on Friday night.
And then play D&D with them elsewhere.
It sounds like they want to do D&D as an adaptive framework. Parts of this interview do mention, like, using other IP. Just to kind of get back to that for a second there, because I'm trying to, like, look for, like, excerpts here to kind of mention.
What IP would you want?
They mentioned two, which don't really fit. But the two they mention are using, I hate this here, Downton Abbey and Interview with a Vampire.
Why Downton Abbey? Of all things, I don't think there's...
Again, this was like examples that were being kind of
things that
discussed in
don't
the
work.
interview.
Yeah, those don't work, I guess. Yeah.
Well, no. The thing is, I think Downton Abbey, there was more callback about less worsening, but the interview continued in a way that it says, like, Lanzo said, if you come to me and say, I want to make a, I don't know, Interview with a Vampire, I don't know if that works for us as a business, but let's talk about it. And I think that's the thing that says it there. That's the thing that says it there. if someone comes up with an idea and was able to present it in a way that looks like it could work with the, let's say what they're talking about here, the framework that is 5e, they might be willing to do it. And yes, they aren't maybe looking for those really blockbuster IPs, but it doesn't mean we won't see weirder stuff. Because remember, we already saw, what was it, Stranger Things and Rick and Morty.
Yeah, there is just a whole ass Rick and Morty packet.
And I want to say the Downton Abbey and Interview with a Vampire were more things that this person came up with extemporaneously. Rather than,
I know that.
So
it was the examples they were using, which in a hypothetical.
He said, basically the hypothetical was basically like, I just did a Downton Abbey LARP earlier, so maybe we could do maybe we could create new experiences like that. And then another thing was like, what if someone came to me with saying they wanted to do an interview with a vampire? I don't know if it works, but let's talk about it.
I think it's not necessarily that it's bad to say let's talk about it. But, and again, it's not necessarily bad that they're not taking stuff off the table. But again, it's like, it feels like, I don't know.
D20 is really not a do everything system. There are far better systems for different kind of games.
I agree. To be fair, I think you can adapt things, but it takes a lot of finagling, and it's not like a simple add this rule. Like, I mean, there's like a...
It's the old argument of, I want to play 5th edition, but it's sci-fi. Well, there's not really a core base for sci-fi rules in 5th edition, but there are a lot of sci-fi games that you could play instead. So it's one of those things. You can't make D&D everything.
It reminds me of like some kind of post I saw, which was kind of satiring this, like, hey, so we're playing Catan, and we wanted to play some kind of like intrigue style like building game using Catan as a base. And it's like, well, why don't you just play Lords of Waterdeep? No, we're too used to Catan, so let's we'll figure it out.
Right?
It very much so is that. And I think it's the unfortunate thing that it's both good and bad. We've seen a lot of this as using 5e as a framework for a lot of things. And yes, people have made it work for a lot of games now. But a lot of that has been explored over the last decade. And I think that's one of those things is, how much more can we throw on this framework? Their framework isn't updating all that much from the rules we've seen. It's pretty much the same framework they had before. It's just got a spiffy new coat of paint on top of it.
And they painted in a 0.5 at the end of it.
Yeah.
Polish it a little bit.
Yeah, so, I don't know.
The whole interview, which I did read I read it when it was posted. This interview is why I stated I think there's a real chance that D&D is a little bit done for a while. Honestly, I think other things are going to usurp it if they go this route.
As like I said, like, I'm so glad I found Level Up, because I'm like, you know what? With all the new 5th edition stuff, I'm like, I'm going to give this a try.
This has gotten to the point where Lightning, River, and I have gotten together and been like, let's just build our own D20 system using the basic frameworks of D20 Modern.
Yeah.
Build our own thing, and then if it's good enough, maybe try and publish it.
Yep. I'm inclined to say, yeah, I mean, like...
Because, like, the games Lightning, River, and I run are barely 5th edition at this point.
I mean, and here's my thought. Based on what I've seen so far, I'd rather just play 2014 5e. It works.
Yeah,
it works
I'd rather just play the books I have, because it's more fun.
Yeah,
I UA tested all of the player packets, and it simply wasn't fun. The game I ran of that was not fun for anyone.
Again, it's like it's the problem that there's a lot of the same, and what's good doesn't necessarily balance out what's bad in the new 2024 Player's Handbook as we've seen it so far.
Yeah, there is good stuff in there, but it's so in between a bunch of blood and just bad decision making.
And again, bad wording. Yes,
yeah,
you can
it's
errata
not
a lot
a
of bad
huge
wording.
wording issue.
Hey,
but
you can errata wording, but it's
Mhm.
there.
The first printing is gonna be a mess.
Yeah, no, the first printing is a mess.
And the first printing is
It's
what
not going to
most
be a
people
mess,
who
it
buy
is a
this
mess.
book. And the first printing is going to be the book most people at this point are going to own.
Yep.
Pre-sales for it. Of course, most people are going to be buying the first one. It's such an issue being it so bad. God. It's sad. You know, again, I was not necessarily filled to the brim with most confidence on a lot of things because of, one, the change in direction post OGL from being less of a 6th edition and more of a 5.5.
I mean, joke's on me, but I had the baseline confidence of having a little fucking game balance in your product.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing, too, that I gotta say. And it's not that it doesn't fill me the confidence that we had some good game designers working on it. But I think it's sort of like Jeremy Crawford, who's one of the two big ones with can't remember his name.
Crawford and Chris Perkins.
Chris Perkins. Chris Perkins said. That's what I was trying to remember. Those two, the big main designers. Chris Perkins says if he worked on a 5th edition, he would only have 4 classes.
Yeah. And I agree with that.
I mean, what do you mean by that? Like, what would be the 4 classes?
I don't know what you go with that one. It's an interesting idea, but I would like to see it explored, and that's the kind of thing. It's like, I don't know what you mean by that. It sounds like you have a lot of ideas. Why don't we see these in this book?
I would like to see, honestly, Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford just go out and make your own system.
Yeah, literally just leave Wizards and do your
own
thing.
Go make your own studio and make your own product. Honestly, there's a good chance you could get the top spot because you have name recognition.
Warrior
Expert. That is the baseline.
Oh, okay.
What D&D used to be was Warrior Expert Mage Healer.
I see the idea behind it, that it would break down.
Which is how I would actually design a system.
And then each of those would break down into
and then those would break down into their specials.
Yeah.
So
that is actually how I would design a system because it's a lot tighter and a lot easier to balance.
Yeah. So it'd be like you'd have a standard warrior, and then you'd have like choices.
It is less. Balance it is less choice freedom.
Yeah. Basically the archetypes would be what define, but
because warrior you could be fighter, paladin, ranger, expert, rogue, other stuff, mage. You have all your magic users, healer, alchemist, cleric.
I might put healer under druid too.
Alchemist, cleric, druid. I was
maybe bard under expert.
Bard would be expert. Mage would be wizard, sorcerer. I can't use other 5th edition examples because 5th edition has such few classes.
I mean, to be fair, like that's the thing. Certain characters fall into different ones.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like druid is somewhere between healer and mage. Bard is between mage and expert. So like might be able to have.
Actually, I just thought about this. That's not necessarily a bad thing, and that's basically 4th edition.
Yeah.
4th edition was that. I just realized that it was like something.
I was going to comment on that, and I got interrupted for a second, and then you're right. Yeah, I was literally going to say that.
I am a proponent of, now that we have tools like Roll20, I'm a proponent of saying try 4th edition. It's actually good.
Yeah. Yep. And 4th edition, basically, as you got farther on, it would be that kind of thing of you're this type, and then you have like little snippings of like you're an expert, but maybe you have a couple mage abilities or something like that, you know. But it's sort of like it went into that kind of thing that it did have some carryover. So you had a primary role and maybe a secondary role as it developed, you know, sometimes for different builds and stuff, which I thought was a very neat thing and made them all. Yes, they were more classes, but each of them had a similar feel and a similar kind of play style standardized.
All defender, this going on with the uncertainty of D&D has made me glad I've done one thing in my career as someone who runs games. Is I took the time to learn a lot of systems.
Oh, I have to.
I think
I know
people
a lot of systems now.
at this point, if you only know 5th edition, I think at this point it might not be bad to try and find another game to learn as well. There are many that are very easy to learn. There are many that are a little more complicated. Pathfinder, I love it, but it is a complicated mess sometimes. And if you think 5th edition is too simple, Pathfinder might be the system for you. If you want a more social system, 2d20 systems are right there. Or there's D100 systems for that.
D100 systems make things a lot grittier, in my opinion. That's where you get Warhammer and Call of Cthulhu.
There are many systems, and I recommend please try more, because 5th edition in D&D is kind of going in the shitter.
Yeah, and there are a lot of I personally like a lot of 2d6 systems.
I'm a big proponent of 2d6 and 2d10.
And again, even if you don't necessarily want to go away from 5th edition, there are so many actual well-made subgroups of adventures people have published out there that you can find for something a little bit different. That's still your.
I literally said.
Yeah.
Several times, level up advanced 5th edition is just 5th edition with a lot more thought and work.
But I mean, even something a bunch of stuff from old Cold Press or something.
Cold
you could
Press,
take a lot of...
Ghostfire Games.
Yeah. People have published a lot of stuff that are extra things you could do for it. So definitely there's a lot of options. But yeah, I agree. Just keep an eye on all that stuff and find something that you love, and yeah. For the topics today, I have one final one. That's a nice little one as a palate cleanser I thought we needed here, and that is it's good enough just because of, honestly, Roll20's got some snark on here.
That was funny. The tweet was very funny. The timing of that tweet was really funny.
Yeah. I'm going to link an article about it, but also you can link to their Twitter.
Let me find the Twitter. Let me find the tweet.
If you can give the link directly, because
they linked to their Twitter. I'm just going to go to their Twitter account and grab it.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. I found it quickly.
Found it. Twitter. Yeah, Roll20 tweets a lot. I found it. There it is. It's the timing of this tweet was very funny and definitely intentional.
Yeah, they're you can have games with both of them enabled, and you just choose which character sheet you're using.
It's a good tweet.
Yeah. And you could keep using the classic stuff or new stuff. They're just play how you want. It's again, having that option is great, but it's also, definitely snarking on D&D Beyond's mess-ups and stuff like that. And it's also the thing we talked about, hey, the new character sheet's kind of awful. And specifically, kind of bad in Roll20, which might not be Roll20's necessary fault. It depends on
the Roll20 one has been out for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It is still very much an open beta.
It literally says it's a beta.
Yeah, it is very much an open beta. The automation of things doesn't quite work, and the DM side of the sheet is really bad. But that's stuff that'll get worked out in the year.
Yeah, and the way they have it, I think is kind of bad in that, they have... I'm actually looking at it right now. You can go and click on it. And that they have, basically, how to put it? Basically, the top part, which has, your health and your abilities, and, is very big, and you have to, scroll down to get to things like your spells and skills.
I actually don't mind it that much.
I think I wish skills were a little bit...
Something I like about the sheet is it's the first time a 5th edition sheet has had, or at least an online one has had a senses tab, because the current one actually lacks that.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, drag and drop has always been both good and bad. A lot of cases for Roll20.
Yeah, the drag and drop for the DM is really bad.
Roll20 is one of those ones that I do like saying just because it's easy and standard, but it doesn't mean it's great. Not going to lie, it has a lot of issues.
At its baseline is free.
It's free, and it works. And it does an okay job.
Yeah.
You want to run a game, you can.
It's not my preferred method. I actually prefer Foundry, but teaching people how to use Foundry is it's a process.
Yeah, like I'm someone who thinks that the skills should have been up with where the abilities, saving throw, senses, and proficiencies are, because I want quick access to them.
That's fair.
Rather than,
that is a fair criticism.
Yeah, and I think you could fit them all in there. There's not that many.
Yeah, it's very much. I hope to see where they go with this sheet a lot.
Yep. So that's that's probably my biggest complaint, is just that the skills they're far too spread apart vertically, and you have to like scroll through them to find the one you want, which makes you lose what you're looking at, and then you have to like recapture where you're trying to go with it.
My biggest gripe is mostly that the automation doesn't work correctly, so you have to do a lot of manual input and changing things. But that's an issue that is common in beta sheets and will fix itself.
Yeah, literally, as someone who has tried to work on these, functionality is obviously what you add later.
Yeah, because functionality is difficult.
Yeah.
It's touchy.
Yeah.
This actually, you know what this sheet actually reminds me of? A better looking Roll20 Pathfinder 2e sheet. Because when we did our original Pathfinder 2e game where we had 3 sessions, that sheet is kind of very similar laid out to it. But uglier, obviously. Because I think they've obviously probably made much more advances on that sheet. I'd hope. Because the old 2e sheet was really ugly. But it does remind me of that.
Sheet just takes you 10 to 20 minutes just to make a basic monster, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it's because the drag and drop doesn't work on.
I'm trying to figure out how to get a monster sheet.
You can't. You have to use an NPC sheet or the normal sheet.
Oh. Yeah, that's definitely
there's a little option. Yeah, it's gonna change. I don't think they have the NPC sheet fully.
Well, because literally there's a setting button at the top that says manage sheet coming soon. So like literally the ability to swap. Yeah. So
I think they literally just made the functional character sheet and are working on the rest.
So,
again, it's one of those things. It's not just being a not great sheet right now doesn't like make it that it won't get better over time.
It is very much an open beta.
Yeah, so that's not something I'm necessarily going to hold against the entire thing right now. It's an open beta. It's work in progress.
It's not a finished product currently. Yeah, as long as the damages are a little broken, you can't really drag weapons onto it. It's got a few hiccups that make DMing hard.
I'm not gonna lie, I just hope that sooner rather than later, maybe we get a better 2024 character sheet. I don't know. Because again, like, I thought the 2014 character sheet was okay.
It's serviceable.
It's serviceable. Could be better.
It has a lot of issues. Like I said, it's missing a senses tab for dark vision and stuff, which is more important in the new edition because you can be a dwarf and have temporary tremor sense. A lot of issues.
Okay. You got that choice. At very least, in Roll20.
Yep.
I've been going for about 2 hours. I think just more that D&D stuff can be our deeper discussion today. I mean, like, I felt like it might end up that way today, unfortunately, just with the lot of stuff related to the entire thing. Hopefully one of these weeks we'll have a quieter 2024 week and we can have some other topics we can talk about.
Not gonna be next week, I'll tell you that much.
I would like to do a deeper discussion again at some point. I know, like, I don't want to, like,
we try
do
so
longer
hard
than now, but, like I'm not saying we should do it because it's longer, but it's like, man, I'd like D&D to stop fucking everything up.
Again, I think something like, some people are doing some, like, I think, like, Nerd Immersion, I saw he was doing, like, he's beginning class deep divides, and in one of his videos that I shouted out, he did say, like, he was going to do a spell deep dive of spell changes. Those are good. We don't need to talk about this. We've kind of gone over some of the basic changes, and I don't think there's anything particular major beyond that we kind of are going to need to hint about for these changes. But, that's not going to be us. We kind of went over the basics that one week for a lot of the change log. I think there was a few details we kind of just missed out on some of the ways that things worked. But it's like, hey, I'm going to say, I didn't understand necessarily how the hide they talked about in that worked. I didn't understand that it still is against the opponent's perception, but you also have to make a DC 15 hide check, stealth check, or you got stealth check, to hide in the first place. Yeah, and I'm like, so you have that's bad!
Yeah, so you have to get at least a 15 and beat their perception.
Just screw you if you're low character,
no, actually, so this is what it does. I actually remember. So it basically, it's a minimum DC 15 to hide, but then what you roll becomes the DC to find you.
Still, nonetheless, it's sort of like with, I think the example was someone I heard mention, as soon as they were like explaining this and I understood it more, it's like something that has like, let's say like a passive perception of like 7. You still have to roll a 15 to hide from it.
Yep.
That's pretty bad.
It's dumb.
It's pretty dumb. So there's stuff like that that's just kind of dumb there. Yep. So I can't say that our review was perfectly correct just because it's sort of like we're seeing this, we're new to it. I didn't understand it as much,
Played D&D. I played 5th edition for 10 years. There's still shit in 5th edition I don't fucking understand.
What was it mentioning that, like, for the Barbarian, Reckless is only for attacks during your turn? Honestly speaking, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that until last year.
Yeah. I didn't even think about something like that. It was like, I guess it's because I was used to Pathfinder, where when you chose something like that, it would be for the entire turn. Like, if I did Power Attack, I'm Power Attacking all day, on the entire turn, including my attacks of opportunity. I've chosen that for my turn, to take that modifier to me.
I'm just looking over some of the stuff from Advanced Roll20, or Advanced 5e, Level Up Advanced 5e, and man, they address a lot of the stuff that the new stuff that they were addressing in the new version. It's just done better.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, did Joe back that? I thought he might have.
No. You're thinking of DC 20. This is Advanced 5e, which is different.
Oh, he did. Yeah, that's right. He did DC 20. I remember which one.
I backed it too, so that's why. I'm honestly less impressed with that so far. But then again, they only showed 2 levels and no archetypes, and it's also still beta, so it's like.
Yeah.
But I was less impressed with what I was able to find with what they've already provided.
Well, I think they were more on a line of, hey, we need some funding to help us develop the game. We have ideas and concepts and stuff like that.
Yes, and no.
We have a basic kind of thing set down, but the funding will not only help get the book out, but probably finish that development. Sort of like you have a basic outline, a lot of like ideas and stuff like that. You still have to manifest them in a way to balance them out and stuff like that. Maybe that's a little bit more.
Yep.
It's earlier game in the development cycle, maybe. But I think it's trying to be maybe a little bit more ambitious.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see where it goes. I backed it, so I'll be getting the stuff for it, and I'll be able to talk about it when it comes out. But
all right, everybody. I think we'll leave it there. Thank you once again.
No, our weekend gaming?
Oh, that's right. I almost forgot because I'm just silly today. Yeah. Let's talk about what we did this week. We had Yosef's game that all 3 of us were in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Stuff happened. I don't remember what happened.
We resolved the
guys did
Mechanist
stuff. I
Town.
was along for the ride.
Yeah, we finished the
baseball.
Mechanist Town. Oh yeah, that's what I was like. There's something happened in the middle.
The baseball was not good.
It was.
That's
amusing.
not on Joe. That's on whoever made those.
Yeah.
Okay. This is something that I don't necessarily mind as Joe when he uses it, but he uses it almost very trope-like. He likes a good little silly interruption like that. I think it's just that he doesn't have the experience to balance that out with things well. So I don't know if that necessarily was the time and place for us to have that encounter. I think it was fine that he did. It wasn't a terrible thing, but I will agree. Mechanically,
honestly, I would have. I would have incorporated it into our goal of Celeste, or sorry, not Celeste, but the town we're in, something. Rather.
Oh, that would have been cool. As something that like we have to go participate in this as our thing to like get help with.
Or like it's a big, or it's just like it's a big event, and we have to wait till it's over before we can talk to anyone, but we can get involved if we want.
Yeah.
You know, like people are watching, but they're like, "Hey, we need some extra players. You look good," you know.
Mm-hmm.
Or you know, so demons just murdered some of our other players. We need to go and get some few more. You've arrived at the right time. Like, even though it's a little tropey and like funny, it's like it's no tropier or funnier than what we already did.
We did
just kind of bad.
We just sort of ran into it in the middle of the road,
and then we just got invited to join either side.
I'm just gonna say it. Whoever wrote their Adventure of Wizards did a bad job. That's just not a good adventure. And Joe's trying his best.
He's trying his best. Again, it's the thing. He's doing a lot of like his simple writing. He's like trying to connect the dots with his story, and then using these as kind of like the moments, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. You can do that. It's just again like it's not the best adventure to be doing that. Unfortunately. Yeah.
Look, based on what you've told me, it's at least better than his DMPCs.
All I know about Joe's Grinding Gears. I've heard a lot about Grinding Gears.
Grinding Gears?
Heard a lot about that one from some people.
I think Grinding Gears, like, I'm not gonna say it was perfect, but I feel like it was a lot better if it was the simple kind of weird story that we started with. As soon as we switched to Dark Matter, things went downhill because he had to use Dark Matter, and Dark Matter isn't the best balancing for certain things. There are things that work in there, and there are things that don't work in it. First gonna say, ship-to-ship combat doesn't work. It's not... Is it the worst I've seen? Actually, maybe, because I haven't seen a lot of actual rules for ship-to-ship combat. It's pretty terrible. And so sort of like, we had to use that a few times, and like, there were some monsters that just weren't balanced for stuff, and it's sort of like, it was hard to figure out a balance for a lot of that kind of stuff. Like, the story wasn't bad. It was a very, like, unfortunately, I feel like this is the bad part about it too. Because it was one of his characters he was basing the story on, it meant it was harder for him to allow players to have, like, some influence on it in certain ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the mecha rules were better. I wanted to do the mecha rules, but I basically said, hey, that'd be cool. I think I actually just didn't want to do anything at that point in time, so I think that's why maybe I wasn't necessarily. I just was done with the ship combat stuff completely.
Ship combat is never fun.
And it was
very hard to make fun ship combat.
Yeah, since that one was pretty bad for ship to ship.
So there's actually some design I could actually go on. I've actually thought a lot about this. Basically, each player needs to feel like they're doing something unique, but also to their character. And this is where a lot of ship combat, in my opinion, falls short. I think Pathfinder or Starfinder does a decent job at it, but the issue is just that it doesn't feel like either most ship combats it doesn't feel like you're doing anything or helping very much or all that impactful. It's the same problem with mass warfare, where it's like you can be the commander of an army, but it doesn't feel like you're doing anything because it's your numbers going up and down.
I think it's no jab to Joe. He doesn't have a huge DMing experience over here. He's done
what I was there for was fun, so that's all that matters to me.
I don't think the game is terribly fun. I think we have a fun time. I do go on about things as Bander, but again, I feel like it's also like poor Bander has had the shit beat out of him by this entire adventure, and so it's more like Bander has done with this shit. Anyway, so
understandable.
Did we have Monday? We had Monday, right?
We did not have Monday.
We didn't have
River's
Monday.
power went out.
That's right.
It didn't come back on until like 10 p.m.
Yeah, so we didn't have Monday. We had Tuesday.
That's my game.
Yeah.
You guys did some chatting. You learned some stuff.
Yeah.
So you kind of learned a lot of stuff you already knew. I think, but you got some confirmation on stuff.
Yeah.
You learn that, hey, maybe these artifacts that people are illegally trading are dangerous.
Yeah.
Because they might be some kind of weapons of mass destruction from an ancient Magitech empire that
maybe
almost destroyed the world.
And maybe it's highly illegal, technically.
Yeah, maybe it's a literal crime to possess these objects. Then you went to a dungeon, had a fight, and I think the fight was fine. Lynn made a choice by going into the fray alone immediately and getting punched a lot.
I'm not going to lie. I feel like at least as my character, was sort of like, I positioned myself to be very much so like I'm in the room but back. And then, like, all the melee characters were like, okay, you're fine over there. And I'm like, what? I'm squishy. Why are you abandoning me?
Good luck.
I'm going to go help out the other melee characters. And I'm like, can you not? Can you assist me? I'm squishy character.
It just kind of left you there, which is like a choice.
I
think the fight was only hard because of the room layout.
Yeah.
I think the room layout, because it's the issue of, it's the dungeon I've used for. I'm not using an encounter that's any harder than you would typically find in the base book version of this dungeon from Phandelver. Because it's a dungeon I actually quite like. However, it is a hallway into a room with dudes, which is always going to be rough. And they also rolled really good initiative, and you guys rolled like ass.
Yeah.
Which happens sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you're gonna go do a whole dungeon, and then, I don't know, you might talk to a villain, or scare her away, or try to kill her. I don't know what you guys are gonna do. You might talk to her.
I feel like my character would probably talk, but I probably wouldn't be the first.
I feel like Cell is not going to allow a chat to happen. That's what I personally feel like.
Well, it's one of those things is like, I feel like there was a couple of conversations I was going to let other people talk, but then they were taking it in weird directions, so I just took over because I was like, I felt bad about that afterwards because I'm like, where are you going with this?
Because you know this lady is doing something, but you don't actually know what any of her plans are. Yeah. You just know she's collecting artifacts.
Yeah.
She's got a cursed madness eye in her head.
Yeah. Then we had my game on Wednesday. You went and talked to some nobles and made a deal with it. So honestly, this is like I feel like this is a good kind of use of the side thing, and I mechanically don't really have to have you do anything related to forming a rebellion.
Hey, there's rules for that, but they're painful.
I don't want to use those.
The rules are really bad.
That's fine.
The rebellion rules are genuinely terrible. There's a whole adventure path based around them. Yeah. It's bad.
Yeah, find or make new ones.
I think just you like hiring a bunch of really cool mercenaries with some and convincing some people to give money is just well enough. Because I mean, like, the original book doesn't necessarily like not have a rebellion thing, but it's very like vague about it, and it's sort of like you are involved, but also they're just like, oh, you got back with the mystical sword, cool, let's go do the thing now.
The problem with that session is
that I wasn't there.
Only Joe and I did anything.
Sorry about that.
You had lightning and
you had problems that were like good excuses.
You had lightning and river doing nothing for 2 hours.
Yeah. Spectrum disconnected my internet because it wasn't set up properly by the original person. And I found out the reason for that was because they didn't have a piece of equipment, which they didn't have at the time. So I had to drive down to a store to get the piece of equipment that they didn't have at the time, come back. And it wasn't even like a normal piece of equipment. It was like an extra thing that like was on my account, but because it wasn't sensed by the equipment, it wasn't able to be set up properly.
Yeah.
And it took me an hour to figure that out, and then it took me like an hour of driving because I had to drive to one store, they were out of them, and I had to drive to another store to pick it up.
I feel like the thing is, that kind of situation, it was very hard to get River in, unfortunately, because River is only there for a little bit, and I think is really going to probably pop off after the...
yeah, River's just here for the dungeon.
Yeah. Which, I know, like... Eventually Lynn will come back, but then we'll also be able to see, like, when/if Joe changes their schedule, which is supposed to be happening in September. It's also where, like, I can judge, like, it's not that you've gone slow necessarily through the dungeon, because you're already at least a third of the way through it.
We've also had now 2 sessions that have been something
You're only
completely
going
unrelated.
faster through the dungeon, to be honest.
I feel like I wanted that to be a little quicker, but it didn't end up being that way. I think because of, like, I don't know what. Maybe it was, like, it took a little bit for everybody to kind of jump in there and be involved with it or something. But
oh, you're talking about the actual session?
Yeah, like the actual session. Like, your character there may have actually helped on that because you are...
probably
one of the issues is there was a lot of upfront RP before the meeting.
Yeah.
That happened. RP takes a hop in it.
Yeah.
But I didn't hate this. I thought the session was fine. It is unfortunate because I was really in the mood to just kill things for a session, and then one fight, which was fine. The fight was kind of fun.
It was an interesting monster.
It's a weird plant thing you don't fight that often.
Yeah.
I've been killed by one in the game before.
There was the possibility of something else happening that I forgot all about there, so I don't know if it's going to happen or happen at a different time. I'm going to say. So that's one of those things I can just mention. But, maybe I'll do it at the beginning of next session. Maybe I'll just save it for another time because I honestly forgot all about that existing. It's one of those problems with dungeons. It's sort of like you've got a lot of... Sometimes you have multiple moving parts to, like, keep a track of and stuff like that. So it's sort of like, shit, yes, I should remember this, or I should remember this. But they're not next to each other usually, or they don't mention each other in the same thing. Like, I really would have liked, in the section where it talks about fighting this thing, to mention, oh, by the way, this other thing is related to it, go check this out, or something like that. That's what I would like in some of these dungeons, where there's rooms that have, like, connected things that could possibly happen, or stuff like that. Just don't talk about them in their room. Talk about them and mention, go check that out at least, that it's connected in there, so I have that in my brain. It's sort of like, I should have had the dragon out and doing dragon stuff a lot earlier, but because you made a lot of noise repeatedly. But I, honestly, until I was like, did a full read on the dragon, when we were getting a little closer, I was like, oh yeah, I should remember that. It mentions stuff.
I thought we'd go and fight that dragon, because we have spells to nullify its worst abilities.
Again, like, it's a dragon, it's tough, but it's not impossible to do.
Hey, the cool thing about Death Ward, it makes you immune to both drain, damage, and negative energy. So, all he had to do his breath. There's spells to get around that. He's just gonna punch us to death, which is pretty rough. God, he probably does a lot of damage.
It does a lot. I think because its size, it probably gets like probably at that size.
I'm assuming he's huge.
You're not wrong. So that
bigger
size
than
is like
huge would be like a little bit much.
I think he's only huge because
if he was gargantuan, that'd be crazy. If he was colossal, that'd be absurd.
He's only an adult umbral dragon.
Oh, yeah, makes sense.
So I think that's what bite, claw, tail slap, wing. Probably at that level.
If I was a cool transmuter wizard, I could put my cool person buffs on people, but I decided not to do that at the start of the game.
So yeah. I don't think anybody did anything on Thursday, right?
No.
And then Friday, Worm, actually, I did join in. We had last night, which we did the... it
was an RPG.
It was an RPG.
Microscope.
I was kind of really exhausted. I was a little bit more awake by the end, just because we had been there long enough. But it had been a very long day, and I was very tired when coming into it, so it took me a while to... And I was not as good, I don't think, as I could have been. But we did try out Microscope, which was actually a very interesting RPG experience.
It's a world building RPG.
Yes.
I've heard the popular one is A Quiet Place, in the same genre. I think is what it's called, or no, Quiet Year. The Quiet Year. Anyway, something like that.
Movie.
Yeah. But yeah, it's basically it's basically a collaborative world building game where you basically and one of my favorite parts about it actually is that you're not supposed to collaborate. It says do not collaborate with people on things. Run your ideas as long as they don't contradict with what other people are doing. Make your own history. I think that's honestly makes things a lot really interesting because it's like, what does that mean? We didn't define it, so I'm gonna define it now.
I think there were some things where like you did have to like there were points where you did have to suggest things to the team early on, but once you got into it, it was sort of like the details. You definitely had your own thing of like
you collaborate on like basically the genre, the scope, and then you basically collaborate on what you will or will not include. Basically, it's like we're going to be including this even though it's not standard to this setting, or we're not going to include this even though it could be.
We did a storyline of a magical
utopia that ended in a long train wreck.
Yeah.
Even though we never actually really figured out what that train wreck was.
Well, we kind of came up with the basic idea of it's a goddess of magic dies, and that allows magical energy to permeate the world. There becomes a magical utopia that has all this energy.
It permeated. It basically flooded it, which originally caused a disaster, which destroyed everything. But then it was used to create a utopia, and then
during that time, they came up with like artificial magic beings, kind of like souls and stuff like that. Used them as the usual thing anybody makes the usual slaves. It's slaves, We created our own artificial people. Hey, turns out they're artificial people. Maybe they should be free. And then we added in the good old. I think my one line for like an event.
You literally added one event, which was racism, and I'm like, I'm
not going to lie. It's like as soon as the people got free and like had rights equivalent, that was the society. That was like the head people's society. The lower people were not going to treat them right, and that was even within a utopia. That's a hard thing sometimes to do. And then, of course, I think during the end of it, the only thing we added on is a magic goddess returns, basically.
Yeah, basically the end. The next apocalypse was basically a goddess of magic is born. A new goddess of magic is born. So it's all like basically magic, which had flooded the world and led to this utopia. Things then went downhill, but then when one was born, it basically caused everything to collapse.
Yeah. There was more details about it, but it was an interesting idea of coming up with like a little society and history kind of thing.
I definitely want to do it again, maybe with a few more people, maybe on stream next time.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to kind of do as a thing. It's an interesting world building exercise, and I think I can suggest it because of that. It was very fun. A collaborative world building. And as I think we were saying at the end, this is the kind of thing that you could come up with a world and then play in it in an RPG afterwards.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that at some point.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
Yep.
I do recommend trying it out if you are into DMing / world building. I think that is the thing about that. If you I mean, being a creative person, you can still work on it, but you do have to have a level of like me, I'm a mixed bag for creative. I'm not like a big writer stuff, but I'm a good ideas person when it comes to building up RPG worlds and stuff like that. I've got the creative side of a lot of things that I think helps.
That's the website where you can get it. I think it's like $5.
Ooh, look at that too. Another bonus link. Yay, bonus links.
Oh wait, here it is. Oh no, it's oh no, it's a physical. So the digital is okay. It's $12.
Because we're fun. Try it again. Yep. Alright, does anybody have anything else then for today? Or we give some shout outs and call it that? Alright. I will say, first of all, thank you to Momo for joining us, for popping in a little mid-stream. I did have to adjust cameras. I was ready for it, but also not ready for it. It's fine. It's 3.0 beginnings, first session, of using this here, so
new layout.
New layout. Hopefully it's a little nicer and everybody likes it. So yeah. And you have anything to shout out then, though?
I can shout out nothing really. My birthday's next week, I guess.
Woo!
Dragon Age Velgard looks cool. I got nothing.
as long as it's as good as the previous Dragon Ages, which I know people have liked, I really haven't done a lot of.
Hey, if I've learned one thing, it's that people who are online who talk about Dragon Age have really never played a Dragon Age game.
I can say I've never really played a Dragon Age game.
Because, man, people are, like, forgetting how gay Dragon Age is, because there's a lot of openly LGBT characters, and also every game in the franchise is rapidly different mechanically from the last.
Yep.
People are just being weird about it for some reason. It looks cool. I think it looks fun.
Worm, do you have a shout?
I'm DiamondWyrm. You can find me on twitch.tv/DiamondWyrm or at DiamondWyrm on Twitter. Yeah, I'll probably be streaming Monday next. Tomorrow I plan to do a lot more moving stuff, so, yeah, not streaming tomorrow, but, I plan to try and stream Monday, assuming I'm not dead exhausted from all the moving stuff on Sunday.
Good luck.
That's kind of been my life lately, so.
Yep. Still have a lot of stuff to do with the move, so good luck. Continue good luck. Alright. Okay, everybody. I hope you have a good one. Myself, my links are below. I run this place here. I'll be back on Monday. I'm playing around with my schedule, so I'm going to actually try to get a exact schedule for next week that I will at least put somewhere, even if it's just in simple words, up on Discord. I'm going to try to, build an exact schedule this week. I'm also, the big things I'm mentioning, I'm trying to plan for just 2 tabletop-related streams. So I'm moving the Friday stuff to Tuesday. So I'm going to do, a World of Darkness and a more random topic on Tuesdays, and then do Pathfinders on Thursday, for now. I'm trying to play around with that, to open up, some times and play around with schedule and figure out what days I want to, exactly stream. I'm playing around with my stream schedule, so see some changes in that. But I will be back on Monday for a normal schedule. I'm going to get back to Elden Ring, probably do some more of the DLC, because I've just gotten into that for a little bit. And eventually I'll pop back and beat some more of the main game. Eventually. Eventually I'll get back to that. I still have some things to finish there. Eventually. Anything else to throw out there then from you? Social media links below. Discord's probably going to be the main one, but I also do some stuff. Alright, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend. I hope you enjoyed the show and enjoyed hanging out with us and learning a few things about our the tabletop news. So hopefully it was all good for you. So until the next time you join us in chat, farewell, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Crimson Queen on Wednesday night. Bye.